The United Nations estimates that 4.5 million people, mostly women and girls, have been victims of sexual trafficking around the world. As one researcher said, drugs can be used only once. Prostitutes can make money again and again. Tonight, we take you to Europe, where two countries are dealing with prostitution in vastly different ways. We'll begin in the red light districts of the Netherlands, right after this. When it comes to the world's so-called oldest profession, this is the most famous place on earth, Amsterdam's red light district. Of the thousands who visit here each year, many are customers, but most are tourists, curious to see this spectacle for themselves. But this place of neon and nudity is much more than a sexual playground. It is a massive social experiment more than a decade in the making. Prostitution has never been illegal in the Netherlands, provided it was voluntary. What they did in 2000 was lift a ban on brothels and allow the government to set rules about where and how sex work was done. So now, sex work is legal and regulated, treated just like any other job. The idea is that prostitution is an everyday reality, so bring it out in the open to help protect women and prevent human trafficking. But is all of this actually working? The Dutch model is an idea so foreign to us that it's perhaps best examined in the light of day, and in a place like this. The town of Alkmaar, 25 miles north of Amsterdam, is world famous for its weekly cheese market. On most Fridays, you can see a reenactment of a centuries-old tradition, the weighing and inspection of the delicious local fare. You can't get more Dutch than this. But not far from the cheese market, a very different kind of attraction that's just as Dutch. This idyllic cobblestone street with its old world charm is actually Alkmaar's own red light district. Behind each door, rooms where men from all over come to buy sex.
In the shopping mall. The shopping mall looks nice. There I have flowers as well. That's what we do over here as well. I mean, this is our shopping mall.
Kees van Ooyen is someone you won't find in most of the rest of the world, a licensed brothel owner. He controls most of the 69 windows zoned for prostitution on this street. It's his livelihood, and Van Ooyen says business is good.
Fully booked. Sometimes the girls don't even call us anymore because we don't have any rooms available at the moment.
He agreed to give us a very rare look behind the curtain. For 120 euros, or about $160, a prostitute can rent this room for the day. These small rooms have little more than a bed and a sink. But the real value of a licensed brothel like this, he says, is the security.
This is the panic button in case anything happens.
Now, by law, each room is equipped with a panic button in case a woman finds herself in trouble.
You have a direct signal to the people from our own security. And if it's a big deal, then they inform the police.
It doesn't stop there. He took us down the street to his office, where behind these doors we saw how surveillance cameras monitor the comings and goings on the street and hallways day and night. For the women who rent these rooms, or customers as he calls them, it's much safer than walking the streets.
If they work behind the gas station or behind the central station, I don't know who's going to take care of them.
Van Ooyen says it's not only safe, but also cleaner, with daily laundry service.
We supply a basic set. Sheets are red, towels are red. Here are all the keys.
And in the office where women check in and get their room keys, a little convenience shop.
Soap, gel, condoms, anything, what they need. And we're making a profit out of this as well. Oh, we're making a profit out of everything.
In the end, Van Oljen sees himself strictly as an entrepreneur renting out space to independent contractors.
A lot of people always think that we are sharing a part of their income. No, we're not. They pay me 120 euros a day from 9 o'clock in the morning to 1 o'clock at night. That's it. You can maybe compare it to maybe a strange sort of hotel.
Just a normal family business where the woman washing the windows is his wife. But is it really this wholesome? It makes sense that all this is happening here in the Netherlands. The Dutch are famously practical and liberal, with a long history of religious, social, and sexual tolerance. Here, it seems anything goes, like selling marijuana, as long as you have the proper permit. Prostitutes register like any other small business owner at the Chamber of Commerce. If they're from outside the country, they need to have a residence and general work permit. And the government is legally bound to help and protect them. And this is a key part of the Dutch model.
Zit jij nog in het kleine kamertje?
A vast array of free social services for sex workers.
So this is the middle of the center.
Mariska van Housteden helps run the City of Amsterdam's Prostitution Health Center.
We have bags that we take with us on the street when we do outreach work, and we always have the condoms, the sponges, the gel, everything with us, and we give it to them for free.
Medical checkups are generally not compulsory, but local authorities are responsible for ensuring that there's easy access to health care. But the services are much broader.
We have Dutch lessons, English lessons, so language classes, computer classes, physical and mental self-defense course.
You might wonder, why Dutch language classes in the Netherlands? That's because most of the prostitutes aren't from here. Of the estimated 5,000 to 8,000 sex workers in Amsterdam, 90% working these windows are thought to be foreign. Most come from poor countries in Eastern Europe, like this 26-year-old woman.
My name is Andrea. I'm from Hungary, and I come Netherlands. I work here the red light.
Andrea says she came here voluntarily and legally, lured by the possibility to make good money in Amsterdam's red light district. She agreed to show us the basement room she rents 6 days a week.
This is my room. I work here. I start work now. Now is 4 years. I work here, always a window. Yeah.
She charges the going rate, about $70 for 15 minutes. For a poor girl from Hungary, it's a fortune, as much as $700 a day, depending on how many clients she has.
Hát, ha jó napom van, olyan 10 vendégem van, de van olyan, amikor 4-ből is nagyon jó napom van. De van olyan nap, amikor rossz, és van 2-3 vendégem, vagy most előfordult, hogy egy se. Hát azt nem nézem, hogy szép, vagy nem szép, de azt szoktam nézni, hogy inkább az idősebbeket, mint a fiatalokat. Az idősebbek azok kedvesebbek, és nem durvák, úgyhogy ha tehetem, inkább az idősebbeket.
Andrea says she's glad that prostitution is legal and safer here in the Netherlands, but despite all the government has done, she still calls what she does the worst job in the world.
I don't like this work, and this is the money, you know?
I wrote a letter for you.
Mariska van Housteden and her team see many women like Andrea. The unglamorous reality of selling your body, even where it is legal to do so.
There's girls telling me that they sometimes have 10, 12 clients a day. Every time a complete stranger. I couldn't think about doing it, so I have a lot of respect for the women doing that and standing there smiling time and time again, because it must be very tough on you. And I know by now it's very hard on you physically, but also mentally. You really have to have a switch off, because otherwise it's just a lot to handle. So I will see you maybe Friday.
Okay.
Yeah, I come with Anna, we talk a little bit better.
Okay,
Yeah?
thank you.
See ya.
See ya.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you
Bye-bye.
very much. I try not to let it get to me, because then you can't do the work anymore. I can't just go in the street every day if it really gets you emotionally, but of course it gets to you.
For all the efforts to treat prostitution as normal, there is still a stigma about it. In truth, most don't want to be seen on camera. The reason? Again and again, we heard a version of what one 25-year-old woman from Bulgaria told us in Alkmaar. She didn't want her mother to know. It's a fact of life even Van Oljen, a father of two himself, understands.
It's not something you're proud of to be a prostitute. That's the way it is. Whatever you think about it, you think about it. So yeah, they have family at home, and I have two daughters myself, and I would not be very happy if, to be honest.
The biggest criticism of the Dutch model is that it has not accomplished its main objective, to protect prostitutes from exploitation. For all that is out in the open, there is still a black market sex industry that police can't seem to get a handle on. Women lured into the country on false pretenses, like working in the flower market, and even those willingly choosing to become sex workers are falling victim to pimps, sometimes individuals, sometimes organized groups, who use threats and brutal violence to force the women to work for them. In the last few years, an average of 1,000 victims of human trafficking have been identified, and the number keeps rising. And most agree it's only the tip of the iceberg. Maria Genova is a journalist who has interviewed and corresponded with dozens of prostitutes for her books on the Dutch model.
What the Dutch government didn't realize when they decided to legalize the prostitution, these women didn't decide what to do with their bodies, but the pimps decided what the women should do with their bodies.
In this shadowy world, numbers are hard to come by. Estimates are anywhere between 50 and 90% of the Netherlands prostitutes are forced to work against their will. Genova thinks it's somewhere in between, and she says even under the Dutch model, most pimps go unpunished.
Police agents told me how powerless they are a lot of times, that they know who are the pimps, they know who are the victims, but they can't do anything because the victims don't want to talk to them. Why there are so many little people here? These girls are so afraid.
We heard one story of just how pimps got control from this Dutch woman we'll call Cindy. She says that when she was just 19, she chose to become a sex worker to help pay off $10,000 worth of debt.
I couldn't pay it with the money I was earning at my normal job, so for me it was an easy way to choose for the sex work to get the money quick as possible.
Cindy's goal was to make money, but it came at a cost. She made a deal with a man who became a boyfriend, and he said he could help keep her safe.
He would get 30% for bringing me there and bringing me home afterwards. I said, wow, you know, I'm gonna make this money. Yeah, and I needed it. So for me, it was really, maybe I was happy the first day somewhere because I really thought my debts would be paid.
But before long, he wasn't just asking for 30%. He was taking all the money.
He started with brutal violence. So threatening, hitting me, and you're so afraid and so intimidated that you don't know what to do anymore, you know, you just give the money. Yeah.
She was working right in the heart of the red light district, but felt trapped.
I couldn't fled, I couldn't run. You're already told so many times and so long that you're nothing. And without him, this is what he's telling you, you will not have a life at all, you know. It makes that you don't find yourself anything worth anymore.
It took becoming a mother for Cindy to muster the will to run. She worked with authorities to come up with enough evidence, records, and witnesses to get her pimp arrested and jailed. But Cindy's story is the exception. Compared to what most see as the size of the problem, very few pimps are ever convicted. In 2010, there were only about 100.
The Dutch model can only be successful if there's enough law enforcement capacity.
Lodewijk Asscher is now the Deputy Prime Minister of the Netherlands. For years, he worked in Amsterdam's government, crusading to clean up the city's red light district.
After legalization, I think, with hindsight, we were a bit naive. At the time, there should have been more focus on law enforcement, on international trafficking, etc. So now I think we're in a hurry to catch up and make sure that regulation turns out to be a success after all.
So in recent months, a police show of force, raiding red light districts in Dutch cities to check paperwork and interview sex workers, looking for evidence of abuse and trafficking. And there are increasing calls for reform. Asscher himself wants to raise the legal age of prostitutes from 18 to 21, require sex workers take a language test to ensure that they understand their rights, and he has championed efforts to make red light districts smaller, easier to control. In fact, Amsterdam's red light district is shrinking.
The big change is that we decided to push back the number of window brothels. It's just too much. A couple of years ago, we had over 450 window brothels in this very small area. So it was impossible to control for law enforcement agencies, for the city civil servants. So we decided we had to push this back by almost 200 windows.
So instead of windows where sex workers once stood, a fancy new dress shop, a new upscale restaurant in the center of the red light district.
Pioneering entrepreneur who dared to start here.
And red light radio, whose owner plans to transform this former brothel into offices for writers and artists.
This used to be all old prostitution rooms. There used to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 prostitutes working, and now it's us with a lot of other amazing people who do good stuff instead of selling sex.
Make no mistake, despite acknowledging that there are problems, most here think the Dutch model is the way to go, even if it needs some tweaking. They say making sex work illegal would be worse, driving the problem underground. You hear it from politicians who have acknowledged problems.
We still defend the legalization of prostitution. We still think that it should be, women who wants to do this work should be able to do so.
And you hear the same arguments from social workers who see the dangers firsthand.
With the Netherlands, it looks like it's a big problem here. It's not bigger than in any other country. We're just honest about it and we're trying to tackle it. So, and I think we should keep it a free profession.
And this brings us back to Alkmaar, where the town's #1 brothel owner has seen some of the windows on this street closed by local officials. But he's still betting it will be red light business as usual for years to come.
Prostitute is happening all over the world, anywhere, always. So you better regulate it, because it's happening, legal or illegal.
When we come back on the program,